In 1977, George Lucas and 20th Century Fox introduced the world to Star Wars, a movie that established the model for the modern summer blockbuster. In a partnership with Kenner Products, they changed the way those films were marketed, making toys and action figures an integral part of promotion before their release and long after their departure from theaters. In 1979, Kenner began a mail-in promotion to build in the already fanatical fervor of the first 2 years of the toy line. 4 proofs of purchase were enough to acquire a new character called Boba Fett, who would be featured in the highly anticipated sequel, The Empire Strikes Back. The legend had begun. The mysterious intergalactic bounty hunter's reputation was growing. Without even appearing in a film, he was already the most highly sought-after action figure in the toy galaxy. Honestly, I don't even know where the first one came from. It was definitely a gift from my parents. It might have been a birthday present, it might have been a Christmas present. I'm not totally sure exactly when we got it or where we got it. It was probably something for both my brother and I. I don't know if it was his, I don't know if it was mine. It might have been his. But I'm guessing it was probably somewhere around, somewhere between 1980, 1981, somewhere around there. Empire Strikes Back was 1980. We lived in Japan, and I remember Star Wars being pretty big at that time, and a lot of the toys that were getting pushed out for Christmas for Toyland were all Star Wars related, and that's probably where that first Boba Fett came from. I couldn't tell you how much it cost, but it's been around. I mean, 1980, 1981, that would have made me 5 years old, maybe 6, depending on when exactly we got it, and I've had it ever since. So that's over 30 years. I don't even know. I don't even know why Boba Fett. As a kid, you know, he's barely in the films, so you can't attach it to the cool things he did. If you want to say Han Solo was the coolest good guy, you know, then getting captured by Boba Fett sort of by default makes Boba Fett the coolest bad guy. He's there as a partner with Darth Vader. You know, he's catching Empire Strikes Back is such a dark point in the series, and Boba Fett is really key to that, even though we never actually see him do anything. So there's that sort of mysterious, you don't know what's under that helmet, you don't know who he is, there's that mysterious factor, and I think that's what draws a lot of people in, just for Boba Fett in general. As a figure, honestly, it had nothing to do with who the character was in the films. For me, Boba Fett just looked like a scuba diver. He looked like a pilot or something. He looked like a guy who, was everything I liked about action figures. He had a rocket pack. He had a missile that could theoretically fire out of... It was weird because it looked like it was a separate piece and it should come out, but you knew that it couldn't. And then, just that whole look of that figure. He's got the weirdly sculpted hand that makes him look like he's swimming. I don't even know what it is, but for some reason, that figure, that design... just captured my imagination as a kid, and even as I grew up and sort of got away from toys for a little while, that figure always remained in my collection. Number 4, we were at one of the flea markets that we go to all the time, and I happened to be walking by this guy's table, and he was putting all his stuff out, and he had some toys sort of on the front edge of the table, and as he was setting the things up, figure fell off the front of the table. I happened to see it out of the corner of my eye, and I picked it up. It was Boba Fett, and so when I brought it to the guy's attention, he appreciated me being honest about the fact that it had fallen on the ground, and I picked it up, and he let me have it for no cost. Currently, there's 125 figures in the set. And that's from various sources. Most of them were purchased by my wife Kate and I. But I post a picture of each one on Instagram, and it's starting to get a little bit of a following. And at this point, people do sort of look to be a part of it and try to contribute to it. There was one guy who, when he sent me the 2 figures, he actually illustrated on the envelope the numbers. There was a little picture of Boba Fett's head, and he had put the numbers, because he knew which numbers they were going to be in the set, so he had put down 117 and 118 on the package of the envelope, and that was a pretty cool thing. Number 5 and 6 actually came from the same collector. He was clearing out a pretty impressive collection of boxed Power of the Force stuff, Episode 1 items, and he actually had a lot of vintage stuff as well. So I saw that he had 2 Boba Fetts, and I needed to make sure I got both of those. One of them is in really good condition. The other is complete, had his blaster, and I don't know how it's in the amazing condition that it's in. It is absolutely by far the best one I have ever seen. He is crisp, he is perfectly painted, he is shiny, it's beautiful. It looks like it was just made. So I do have a spreadsheet where I catalog, I mark each one. Each one has a number corresponding to its position in the set. And I like to keep track of where we purchased it, when we purchased it, and the story behind where it came from, who purchased it. Because for me, it's not so much about collecting Boba Fett stuff or figures. It's more about tracking the stories behind where they came from, and the history of those pieces. I don't care what condition they're in. I would like to collect as many as possible, and each one becomes a marker for the experience that we had, whether it was at a flea market, a yard sale, a collection we went to look at, or just somebody who was selling stuff. And it's a neat way for us to have little Boba Fett milestones for all of those adventures. 24 through 33 actually were a gift. My best man, who I've known since we were kids, 7th grade, he and his wife actually gave us a gift of those figures, and they had wrapped each one individually, and they were all in a bag. And it was a pretty big surprise to me that one, he'd been paying attention to something like that, and the two, that he had thought ahead to actually put that gift together, and went out and purchased each of those figures individually wrapped them and gave them to us as a wedding gift. I don't really collect Boba Fett stuff per se. Like there's a lot of people who have Boba Fett collections, and when you see sort of their displays, they've got a statue, and they've got the helmet, and they've got the t-shirts and posters and anything with Boba Fett on it, birthday napkins, sheets, all that stuff. But for me, for this collection, it's not about all the Boba Fett stuff. I do have some other things, but it's about that specific figure. 83 through 91 actually came from a couple of friends of ours who have been following the Boba Set and know that I collect these figures. And they're also out there collecting vintage toys and Star Wars and all of that kind of stuff. So they were actually able to put together a pile of 9 vintage Boba Fett figures, which they then sold to me. And they did it again a few months later with another 9 figures. And they've actually been pretty regular contributors to the collection. Probably sometime in 2010, I think. I had quietly been collecting them. I think at that point I probably had 6 or 7, maybe 8 figures. And then Kate and I had a conversation about it and realized that it was, each one did have a story behind it, and that going forward, it might be an interesting thing for us to actually start actively building this collection of these figures and using them as a way to catalog the places we were going and the people that we're meeting when we were looking to build this collection. One of the figures actually doesn't have a head. And for me, again, that's okay because I want them in any condition. It's more about their life story than it is about the actual look or condition of the figure. But I couldn't leave him looking like that in the collection, so I went ahead and added a head that kind of has a passing resemblance to me. People ask me if I'm trying to collect all of them, which it's a weird question because I don't think people really realize how many of these figures were made. They started making them in 1979, and there were like 8 factories all over the world where they were just churning these figures out. They didn't stop making them until like 1985, so there are millions and millions and millions of these figures that were produced. Some of them got lost to time, to chewed up by dogs, thrown into sarlacc pits all over the place. I probably lost, thousands of figures at the beach. Not my Boba Fett, but thousands of figures at the beach. I brought figures to the beach all the time. So it's impossible for me to get them all. No matter how long we try to buy them, no matter how long we try to look for them, there's no way I'm going to get them all. So for me, for the future, it's really just about getting as many as we see, as many as we can find, and just continuing to build that archive of the people and places and things that we'd encountered as we built the set.
Cut.